Hello, everyone. You're listening to Those Are the Girls with Mallory and Friends. I'm Mallory,
I'm Victoria.
and we are changing culture and bringing back traditional values.
All right, we have an incredible guest on, Juan Pleitz. He is the former chairman of the North Carolina Federation of College Republicans. He is the current, is it policy advisor? Is that right, Juan?
For which one? I hold many hats.
Sorry. So. Okay. He's the current policy advisor for the North Carolina Federation of YRs. It's also policy advisor for the WHIP, right?
So it would be political director for the North Carolina Young Republicans. Sorry. And so I'm not quite the policy advisor for Representative Hardister, but I am his legislative staff assistant. Policy advising is one of the things that I do, though.
Okay. He is a former intern for the Lieutenant Governor Dan Forest office. He is a senior at Williams Peace University studying political science, and he's done all this, and he's only 22, and it's just crazy.
Also, possibly our future president. So
oh my goodness! Oh no!
Remember his name. Remember me. I'd like to be on your cap. No, I'm just joking.
I will say, I hope this quote doesn't come back to haunt me ever. But like, that is one role I would never want to have as president of the United States. It is just not appealing to me. I don't see why anyone would want to be president. But more power to you. I guess.
Now, I will.
When you run, wait. When you run, I'm going to send this clip to one of the people that you're running against. When you run for president.
Now, I will ask on, and like, you don't have to answer. I'm just curious. Like, would you rather be the politician or be the behind the scenes person?
Oh, good question.
See, that's something that I've sort of struggled with a little bit throughout, because I've kind of worn both hats, right? I've been sort of like the behind the scenes person, particularly with Representative Hardister and my work here with him, right? Sort of writing the press briefings and helping him sort of be prepared and for legislative debates and also for
and running campaigns too.
And, right, a lot of that. But then I've also sort of had to been the public face of different organizations such as the College Republicans during an election year, the National Hispanic Republican Assembly as well, which I currently serve as vice chair. Our chairman was actually absent for the state convention, and so I had to give a speech on his behalf to the convention floor. And there are pluses and minuses for both things. So I haven't really decided what it is that I like most, right? I'm kind of just the type of person who's like, all right, where do you need me? And I will fill the role to the best of my ability. I'm just here to help, really. And what I told my state board of the College Republicans at the very beginning is like, listen, like, yes, I am the state chairman, right? But by no way or shape or form is this going to be the Juan Pleitz show. This is the College Republicans. We're all in this together as a team. All of you guys are public faces of it. All of you can talk to the press, to the media, can go out and speak on behalf of the organization, because it is much bigger than just one person, rather than sometimes we like to see in these sorts of organizations in the past, just sort of making them about personality and about popularity. Really, I'm just here to work. So,
yeah, I think
that shows how genuine you are.
And I think it's an incredible view, because like, I mean, I can't tell you how many organizations like I've been a part of, and I think Mal can agree that and it's like not just like Republican organizations, but like also like sororities and other clubs I've been in. It's like people don't look at it that way. When you become a leader of the organization, you feel like, okay, like it's on me to be the face. And it's not like a selfish reason, I feel, but it's more of like, okay, it's on me to be the face because I've stepped up to do the role in the organization. And I think that's the better way to look at it. It's like, look, like we're all the face, because like this organization is so much bigger than just me, just us. It's everyone. So I commend you. I will add to part of Juan's bio. He's one of mine and Sebastian's best friends. He was in our wedding. He's at our house at least once a week, usually staying the night. Like we have Juan's room at our place, and he's Kennedy's first love.
The dog.
Kennedy the dog's first love. We're like, where's Uncle Juan? And she will find him. It is the funniest thing.
She'll bolt out the door. It's great.
She will.
The most rewarding part of any day. It really is.
That's cute.
But no, I guess to summarize your question, when I'm on stage, I constantly find myself loving it and also wishing I was backstage. And then when I'm backstage, I find myself also loving it and wishing I was on stage.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You know, we'll
Yeah.
figure it out eventually.
I get that. I
Yeah.
would say right now in my life, I'm like 75% being okay behind the scenes, but like that 25%, I'm like, I do like speaking and like being the boss and like
Mhm.
being like the face, not the face, I guess, but just being kind of like the leader in this.
Yeah.
Right. I guess that also comes from the fact that like I never really intended to be involved politically. That just wasn't something that I had planned out for myself or anything like that. It just sort of happened. And it was one of those things where, you know, when you're in high school and everyone's asking you, all right, what are you going to do with your life? You know, you're 16, you're 17, you're about to go to college, you're about to be an adult human. You know, what are you going to do with your life? And I always thought I was going to end up in like some Charlotte business school or something, and or whatever. But again, life is surprising, and it just kind of led to this sort of journey where things just kept happening, and meeting new people, and becoming impassioned about fascinating ideas like young people and the Hispanic community and everything like that. And it just kind of led to this path that not only led me to Raleigh, but has led me to the legislature, to the NCGOP, and to meeting just incredible people all across the way. But if you were to tell me 5 years ago when I was a freshman in high school, freshman in or a sophomore, I probably wouldn't have told you that I'm where I am.
So
and I don't
what
believe
was-
I've done much. So
So what was that life moment? Because like I didn't realize this, and like I know you very well. Like I didn't
Yeah.
realize this. Like, what was that life moment that made you realize like I want to get more involved in politics?
Yeah, so a couple of things, right? But mainly the thing was that um, we went through a rough patch. My family and I did back in the early 2010s
During
and
the
beyond.
recession?
Yeah, during the recession, we had a small business, a small restaurant in Lenore, North Carolina, where I grew up. And turned out that my mother, at the age of 42, she was very young, got diagnosed with leukemia just out of nowhere. And it was something that knocked her out in a month. She was gone. And obviously with the mounting medical debts, and also a small business that both of them, my father and her, ran, he couldn't sustain it. And so we entered into a period of a lot of financial uncertainty, right? Where we had my childhood home was foreclosed. Had it not been for the kindness of one of the members of the church that we went to, that offered us a small little apartment, 1-bedroom apartment, we would have been effectively homeless, right? And so my bedroom was also the living room, was also the kitchen. And you know, sort of growing up in that, and understanding sort of, you know, seeing my father sort of struggle with it, but also keeping that optimism up, and continuing to tell us like, listen, like it's going to be okay. We're fighters. We're going to keep going. And then, you know, we eventually grew ourselves out of that. I met a gentleman named Ted Alexander, who ended up being a state senator. And he's the one that sort of got me involved in it. The house that we live in now is his childhood home. And so we got really close because of that. Yeah. And it was this like big abandoned red house that nobody wanted to restore and anything. And we were like, listen, we don't have a lot of money. This is all that we can afford, right? And we built it up, and now it's a beautiful home and everything. But so we had that connection there. But then, you know, eventually we sort of crawled out of that situation, and you know, through hard work, and definitely my dad is, I admire him for everything, for really not giving up, and sort of not wavering on his faith throughout that entire time. If anything, it sort of made him stronger. And now, you know, he's remarried, and I have a wonderful stepmom that's given me 2 very beautiful little sisters, and but during high school, I got involved in a service organization called Key Club, which is very similar to sort of the Rotary Club, the Kiwanis Club, and stuff like that. And they really emphasized a lot of like sort of leadership through service, giving back to the community, serving others. And during that time, I got elected to their state board and got to travel to a lot of places across the state and across the country to meet people that were in situations very similar to what I had just been through. And it was very interesting to sort of be on the other side of it, right? To instead of being the one that was necessitating or needing that leg up or help, being the one that had the ability to provide some sort of help, some sort of hope. And it was a wonderful experience for me. It had a profound impact. And sort of when it was time to decide sort of what to do moving forward, it's like, okay, well, what can I do to be able to continue to help people in a way that is meaningful, in a way that people can see tangible differences in their lives. And that's sort of where I saw the benefit and also the double-edged sword that is politics, right? Because politics is a very complicated business. Oftentimes it's a frustrating business, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of the most rewarding things that I've definitely been able to work on, particularly this year, is our state budget. Representative Hardister is the committee chairman for the Committee on Universities and also Education Appropriations. And so a lot of what we deal with is young people my age, people going through public schools, charter schools, and sort of listening to those needs and listening to what they need to do to offer our students and the future of our state the leg up that they need, right? The resources that they need to be prepared for those 21st century jobs. And so I fell in love with being able to help the dad that is working two jobs in order to make ends meet, that the single mom that is working overtime and struggling to pay for daycare and stuff like that. To me, it's like when I look at a piece of legislation, I really like to think, okay, who is this helping? What is the end goal of this legislation? Who is it benefiting? How are people's lives, how is North Carolinians' lives going to be better because of this legislation that we passed? I take issue a lot with empty political statements and empty rhetoric when there's no results, right?
So like Sebastian's motto, results over rhetoric.
I was telling Sebastian, and I told him I would never say it publicly, but I will say it publicly now. That is such a brilliant statement, and it's honestly something that I think that I've tried to adopt myself, is to go beyond the rhetoric, right? To go beyond saying I'm going to help you do this or I'm going to help you attain this. It's like, what have I done to sort of walk the walk of the talk that I have talked? Right. Yeah. And so, that results over rhetoric speaks a lot to me, because I see a lot of that on both sides. It's a lot of people saying all of these things, but when you sit down and be serious, policy is very complicated and again, very frustrating. But ultimately you kind of have to like be principled and remember sort of what you came to, whether it be your local city council chamber here in Raleigh or Washington, D.C., what you were either elected to do, or as a legislative staffer like me, what you were hired to do, and what those sort of passions were that got you involved in the beginning, which for me, ultimately, it's just helping people, right?
Yeah. I will find, and I mean, I love that one. I mean, that's just something that I think you and Sebastian have very much in common. I remember my first date with Sebastian, I asked him, I go, why politics? Like, because we've been told like politics is such a nasty business to be in, and it's awful, and it's like something you don't want to do. And I asked him why politics, and he goes, because it's the most direct way to making a difference in someone's life.
Yeah.
So I do want to ask though, it sounds like a lot of the problems you describe that like you and your family dealt with, and like the problems like you want to help like that single mother. There's the messaging that the Democrats have that Republicans don't believe in that, and it's these Democrats methods through welfare, through universal child care, through Medicaid and Medicare. What, based on like your experience, I would think like most people would be, well, you sound like it, like you should be a Democrat. Like, why are you a Republican?
Because I believe in the responsible spending of our money, right? Of the people's money. And I think that what we need to do, instead of sort of expanding these programs and throwing money irresponsibly, is actually kind of sit down and see how we can make government more efficient, right? I think we have fantastic programs that legitimately help people in their time of need. That being said, I think that sometimes they're run inefficiently. They're run, too expensively, to the point where you can kind of sort of assess it all and say, how can we streamline this? Because when people call us and they tell us they have a problem with the Department of Employment Security, or they're having a problem with welfare, food stamps, WIC, or anything like that, a lot of the time it just gets stuck. Their problems are just getting stuck in red tape. So not only are these programs not helping people, they're just, not only are they expensive, but they're not even helping the people they were intended to help, right? So how can we, so my general philosophy in it is, how can we sort of streamline the process to where you get the services that you need, and then how do we create an economic environment where everyone has an opportunity, and keyword there is an opportunity, to get that leg up, right? So that it doesn't matter whether you are in a lower income neighborhood in Raleigh, or in Lenore, or in High Point, or in Oak Ridge, that it shouldn't be defined by a zip code. Everyone should have that economic opportunity. And I think that the Republicans have just had better policy to make government more effective, to make that happen. So to me, it's not so much about expansion, it's about efficiency.
I love that. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. And I will add too, I think the economic crisis we're going through right now shows the inefficiency of Democrat policy when it comes to the economy. Because, okay, when you add more like red tape, when you have more government control, prices are going to increase. There's going to be a less of supply. And then that hurts the people, like that hurts people with like especially low income. Because like you don't think like, oh, gas prices going up $2 a gallon is going to affect like that mega millionaire. Like, okay, it's just like one less Gucci purse they can buy. Where like just the working family is like, okay, how am I going to pay enough for gas to go to my job?
Yeah.
And okay, am I going to just fill up a little bit of the tank because that's all I have right now? How am I going to get to work so I can pay for this gas as well as a higher food costs right now? I mean,
speaking of which, really quick, if you're listening, you can become a subscriber for $1 a day, or $1 a month, for those other girls. Just want to add that. Continue.
And that price won't get inflated. So there you go.
It's $1 a month. You can help us, because I mean, what she's saying is incredible. Like, I'll speak for myself. Like I'm experienced, like gas is so expensive. There's so many things. And it's, I mean, like Vic was saying, it's all these policies, all of these red tapes, and it's so apparent right now. Sorry, go ahead.
I just couldn't even imagine what our budget would look like right now if I was driving to work, like an hour to work every day.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. The other day, I'll be completely honest with you. The other day, I put $5 in, and I was like, I cannot believe I'm doing. Like, I didn't think I'd be this person. I'm like trying to find pennies here and there because it's just getting ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, we can't go out to eat. Like, we can't like even go to like Chick-fil-A or McDonald's and get food for $220.
Right, exactly. And I think you guys sort of hit it on the nail. For the multimillionaire elitist, it's not sure, it's one less Gucci purse or something. These people don't even account for that sort of stuff, right?
And
But for the for the average working American,
right.
it's the difference between being able to go to work or not, the difference between being able to afford something else that you need,
New
daycare,
shoes.
internet, new
Yeah.
shoes, like all of these things. These are real problems that people are facing, and it's funny. Have y'all seen those like sort of Instagram pages that have the like the Biden pointing at the gas gauge and being like,
My
I did
mom
that?
said she saw one at our local gas station. She said
Yeah,
she saw one.
so I finally started seeing them here in the Raleigh area within the last few days. I'm
Wow,
very
even
interested
in
to see
Oh,
Raleigh?
I'm
who's
trying to
putting
figure out
that.
how to make
Whoa.
them. I want to
Yeah.
make them.
Yeah. My friend tried to order them from Amazon and they blocked him. So I said,
Ooh.
yeah, I know. Well, what I'm thinking is if you order it from Amazon, you're probably ordering it from like a country in China that saw it was popular. But I told them go to Etsy. So you should like go to one of those pages, Vic, and just kind of like see how they're doing it. Yeah, if you order from Etsy, you know you're ordering it from a American that truly believes that like Biden did it. Like, but yeah, so I mean, the economy right now, dang, I lost my train of thought.
No, but these are
Yeah,
real
you go.
implications, even for
Yeah.
young people, right? I mean, I graduate in a few weeks, and I'm talking to a couple of other students that have just graduated or are looking to graduate, whether in the next week or in the next semester. They're worried. They're worried about what their economic prospect looks, right? What if they're going to be even able to find something in their field, if they're going to be able to make rent, right? Because
Yep.
look, student
Yeah.
loans are a very real thing, and
Yeah.
and quite frankly, when you take out student loans, you've got 6 months before the Department of Ed comes knocking on your door and saying, "Hey, remember that money you signed without really reading the fine print at age 18?" Which, by the way, I don't know how we have 18-year-olds taking out multi-year.
Thousands.
I don't see why
Thousands.
that's even like legal.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. That's crazy. And this is a plug for the community college system. Don't let anyone tell you that community college is not worth it or that you're somehow lesser for going to a community college. Community colleges, particularly here in North Carolina, are state of the art. They are world class, and other states are looking to North Carolina's guidance and leadership as to how to model their community colleges. You go to a community college in North Carolina, you are getting your bang for your buck. Believe me.
I'm
that
pretty.
means that.
Well,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was gonna say Sorry. Well, really quick, I was gonna say the one in Charlotte, I'm pretty sure is the #1 community college in the country. Like CPCC, people come from other states to come to CPCC.
Exactly.
Like I think they even have sports.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of that's called junior colleges. So like if an athlete needs to get their GPA up, they'll go to a junior college where they transfer to like a 4-year program.
Yeah.
And I think that we've seen going back to sort of Republican leadership at the legislature, we've seen a lot of movement towards investing in our community college systems, how high school students can do dual enrollment to then that counts as college credits while they're in high school. You can knock out your gen eds like that, and then on top of that, there are a couple of there's a program, I believe it's called like the Carolina Promise, where you do 2 years at a community college, and then you enroll at a UNC system school for the next 2 years at a discount price. These are tangible things that really make the difference for lower and middle income people who are worried about what college tuition is going to be like, right? And so when we talk about sort of this larger topic that we're talking about, right, the economy, these are real policies that are affecting people, and the economic climate is sort of, when we try to relate it to young people, is creating that uncertainty of like, where is my next meal going to come from? Because I don't have a job and I graduate in a few months. Right?
People don't want to move back home. And if you can avoid it, I'm telling you, as someone who unfortunately had to avoid it, it's really, I mean, people, especially people who are graduating, I'm praying for everyone because I have no idea. And I mean, there are jobs, but the reality is if you have loans to pay back, if you went to college for, let's say, medicine, the reality is you're not going to want to take a job at Chick-fil-A. And those are the jobs that are hired. Like, and that's another thing too, that I think people are like, it's how it's affecting people, because if you need to pay back your student loans, unless you own the Chick-fil-A, you're going to have a very difficult time working at Chick-fil-A.
Right.
Trying to pay back those loans, especially because,
and the unfortunate reality is that, I've seen instances of brilliant students, that have majors in business and statistics and analytics are now working at Walgreens just because they couldn't find anything in their field. It's fresh for me to say that, right? I'm in the field that has like no job security whatsoever, right? If my boss doesn't get reelected, I don't get reelected either, right? or I don't come back. So every 2 years we get to play a fun game in this office called "Will I Have a Job Tomorrow?" Absolutely. It's because we're gearing up for campaigns again, right? And working on a couple of exciting campaigns coming up soon. I think 2020 is going to be completely
2022
for 2022. What did I say?
We're past 2020. We do not want to go back to 2020.
I'm not over it. I haven't coped it. But yeah, I think 2022 is going to be incredibly exciting. But that being said, I was like, in my mind, and I was talking to my dad yesterday, he was like, didn't you just go through this?
That's how I feel. I'm like, oh my God, we just had elections and now we have filing coming up in like 3 weeks.
It's in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yep. I'm excited. Okay, so actually first let me say this thing about colleges, and then I want to talk about the election coming up, because I think it'll be good to talk about 2022. But I want to say this thing about colleges. So what you were saying is going to community college. I think we should definitely, I think the narrative or people are becoming more waking up, whatever. Y'all know what I'm trying to say.
Not woke.
Not woke. Y'all know what I'm trying to say though. To the idea of community college. Eye-opening. They're opening their eyes more to community college, because I think, and I'll use like, for example, like my family, like my parents obviously are Black and they are older. So they grew up way back in when Black people weren't going to college. So it was like, it's a big deal. Like it was never like a question of whether I was going to college or not. It was like, you're going. And I think now that I think
with our generation, it was that, because I never thought I wasn't going to college.
True. And I think now that we have gotten past that, because it was back in the day, if you graduated from college, you were guaranteed a middle class life. No matter what, you were going to get a decent job. And I mean, till this day, I remember I applied for this job at one of those, just like, when you get out of college, you don't find a job, you kind of apply to these like random sales jobs in the office, and there's the bros, and then you're just kind of, so I applied to this job, didn't get it. Funny story. He was like, oh, it seems as if you're more interested in politics, looking at my resume. Why are you here? And I wanted to be like, because you're hiring. Anyway, for that job.
You need money.
Yeah, I'm like, you need money. No one else has hired me. I need to. But anyway, so my point of bringing up that job was like, they just asked for a college degree in general. And I had a friend who didn't go to college and she really needed a job. And she could have done the job. It was a simple sales job, but they asked for a college degree. So I think that there's so many jobs, especially back in the day, and probably right at the beginning when we were entering the workforce, that required a college degree. Not many are requiring that level of college degree anymore. So there are open doors. And I think people just felt like they had to go, you have to go to college or you will, because she struggled a little bit because she didn't have one. I mean, nowadays though, first of all, she has her own business. So she's living and thriving in that. And that's one of the beautiful things about America. You can still make it work. It might just be harder. But my whole point being, I think that people are now understanding that you don't have to go to that 4-year college right away. Even, community college is a great, especially because, I mean, money is a thing. I think we also kind of forgot about or we didn't care too much about money. Because I know there were a few things that I did / signed in college and I was just kind of like, well, I'll figure it out. And it's like, you can't... 26-year-old Mallory is having a problem figuring it out. But yeah, I just want to say that about college. All right, really quick. So 2022, what are some, you were saying 2022 is coming up. So now we know elections have consequences. I forgot who says that all the time. I feel like Dems say that.
Every Republican.
Oh, really?
Republican ever.
Okay, I feel like Dems say that too. Well, everybody probably says whenever their person wins or loses. But elections have consequences. So we see the consequences of these elections. So I really do think there could be a red wave in 2022. How are you looking? What are you thinking for 2022 in North Carolina, across the country? What are your thoughts on that?
I definitely agree that we do have the potential for a red wave, right?
Yeah.
Going across the Representative Hardister's district, as well as being fortunate enough to travel across the state through other different organizations like the Young Republicans and the RNHA and the College Republicans, you get to see a large group of people across different demographics, age groups and stuff, and they're angry. They're angry about what they're seeing coming out of Washington, the inefficiency, the multi-trillion-dollar backroom deals that are being made. And I think that we do have the potential for a red wave. The problem is Republicans need to seize the day, seize the opportunity, seize the messaging, and not drop the ball. Because even though we say 2020 is right around the corner, we still have
2022.
20.
I'm so sorry. Bless your heart. I'm gonna correct you. Every time. I do not want to go back. I don't know if you're putting something out that I'm gonna correct you every time. Continue.
Blink twice if you.
Yeah.
It's the Matrix.
Yes, it is. But no, 2022 has the potential to be that, but we need to keep that momentum going. Right, we need to get the messaging right. We need to get our people trained and get folks engaged. Really, and that's what's going to keep this involvement and this movement going. Right. If we stagnate now, if we get comfortable now with saying, "Oh, people are mad right now," there's no guarantee they'll be mad in November.
True.
Right.
I think about that a lot. I'm concerned that remember when Obama. It wasn't even him, but they killed Osama under Obama. Everybody and their grandmother, Obama.
Say that 5 times fast.
Osama under Obama, and everyone's like, Obama, USA, and we were all happy and everything. Like if he had an election that next day, everybody would have been like, Obama. Yeah. So I'm concerned. Obviously, I can't think of anything that Biden could do that would
I think it goes back to all the COVID stuff last year, which is what was the big moment for Dems. That was the only reason why Democrats won in 2020 was because of COVID and how that halted Trump's economy.
Well, I'm concerned that something like that is going to happen last minute, and then the Dems are going to that's why I want us to keep going and be momentum. Right. But I'm concerned something like that's going to happen last minute. I don't know, maybe we get control over China and North Korea, and then all of a sudden we're a world power and Jesus. I don't know. Right. I don't know what could be, but you get what I'm trying to say. But
genuinely, people are angry. I won't say who, just in the off chance she'll hear this podcast, so I'll just label her as a friend, who definitely leans left and definitely, is on that side of the aisle. And ultimately, she's been like, okay, let's talk about these mask mandates. What's going on? Why are we at a certain percent of vaccination rate, but my kid still has to wear a mask? And even though there's no evidence of that and this, that, and the other. So I think people are sort of you're saying, waking up to that idea of what government, this government or these current politicians that are in office are overreaching in what and we're not okay with that.
Yeah.
So
and to piggyback off of that, I have a friend. I guess he's a former friend. He's somewhat, he's one of those people I don't know what to call him, but we're friends on Facebook still. And he anytime I posted anything positive Republican, he always has something negative to say. Mm-hmm. The other day, this man goes to his laptop or phone and types, "We were better under Trump, ha ha ha." And I was like, ooh. Wow. I screenshot it. I was like, this is, I never thought I would hear him say that. So, I mean, I definitely know people are done and tired. Mm-hmm. I know people I just, like you said, I hope we can keep that momentum, and I hope we don't get complacent, because I think that's another problem. We can be we can be right. Oh, we got it in the bag, and then nobody campaigns.
Yeah, no, you always have to run every election like you're 10 points behind, right? It's that anecdote, but this time it's real. You never, despite whatever the election polls say or what you feel going through community meetings and community events and stuff like that, you have to keep getting that message. You have to keep with that same passion on day one that you have on day 77, right? It's frustrating and it's tiring, particularly for those of us that are in the campaign sphere, but that is the only way we're going to win, is keeping people motivated because we're motivated, right? Because I feel like, again, if we fall complacent, we're gonna lose. And we're gonna miss, I think, the best opportunity that we have in this decade to retake the House and maybe even the Senate.
Yeah.
You know.
So kind of going off of that, part of your very long resume is you are vice chair of the Republican Hispanic Coalition. Am I saying that right?
The National Republican Hispanic Assembly.
There we go.
Close.
And
Got close
I
to
kind of
it.
want to touch on that a little bit too. So what's also really interesting about your story is that you're first generation American.
Mhm.
Your parents left El Salvador over a civil war
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
and came over here, came to America, finding freedom and opportunity, and has. And a lot of the beliefs in the Hispanic community are aligned. Sorry, Kennedy's readjusting herself. Are aligned with Republican beliefs, but Hispanic populations generally still vote Democrat.
Mhm.
Why is that? And what messaging can Republicans do better because in the end they believe this, like they in theory should be voting Republican based off their beliefs, or they're not. Like
Yeah.
what are we doing wrong?
Yeah. So yeah, you touched on an interesting point there. Yeah, my family left El Salvador, particularly my dad. He was first of all, I think my dad should write a book someday. He's got some
I think so too.
out of the window stories about different things.
You should ghostwrite it for him.
Yeah, something like that, man. Like I definitely wanted to sit down with him with like a tape recorder or something. But all right, Dad, let's just talk. Because he's got some incredible stories. But really,
and he hardly speaks English too, right?
Yeah. And growing up, all of my teachers were Miss Teacher. So
I love it.
But yeah, so the reason why we ended up in America and a lot of Salvadorans ended up in America was because of the Civil War. You remember in the 70s and 80s in places like Colombia, Cuba, Nicaragua, El Salvador, there was this sort of communist wave that was going through all of them. And El Salvador was one of the places where it was very ferocious. Actually, my grandmother worked for the pro-democracy army, and so I always tell people we have a proud history of kicking commie butt in different countries. But yeah, and I told you guys this at the beginning of the podcast, but this is new territory for me, because throughout my entire sort of track of being involved in politics, I've always been sort of engaged with young people and sort of like the youth and the the future of our country and the future of our state and yada yada yada, right? But yes, this is new territory for me, and this new role has been very exciting. One of the things that we did a few weeks ago, our chairman Charles Lopez put together a sort of listening tour across the state. We went to Charlotte, Burlington, Greenville, and Wilmington, and these are the areas of the state that represent a large number of the Latino population. And you think Hispanics are going to come to this is another clue into how angry people are. You think Hispanics are not going to come to a Republican event. We had 30 people showing up consistently at these events, and we wanted to talk to them about messaging. We wanted to listen to them to say sort of, what are we doing wrong as a party? What can we improve on? At the convention in Greenville in June, when I got to speak, I told people, you don't have to convince or Hispanics on policy. We already agree with you. You just have to get the message to them, because there's big deception, right? There's two major national media networks that are Spanish speaking, right? There's Univision and there's Telemundo. And they have a very, very biased agenda, period. And one of the things that I like to tell this story as well is the fact that I was driving to work one day last year during the general election, and I turned on the radio because my phone had died, and I stumble upon the Hispanic radio channel here in Raleigh. and a Cal Cunningham ad comes on the radio. And it's like Cal in Spanish, and it's like Cal Cunningham is a devout father and a strong Christian who believes in Christian values and this, that, and the other. It's hilarious.
Cal Cunningham, the guy. Okay, continue.
Yeah, not Cal Cunningham. So that's
the one that cheated on his wife during the election cycle and got kicked out of his house.
Yeah,
so
I was like, continue.
He's a devout family man, husband and father, and goes to church, right? And that's what's being fed to people, right? Mm-hmm. Up until recently, and the Virginia election was very telling of this. The very recent gubernatorial election in Virginia is very telling of this, that Hispanics are starting to wake up to this sort of stuff and starting to vote Republican. The thing is that there just hasn't been any messaging to them in any case. I think that also comes because of the belief that Republicans, or that some Republicans have, in assimilation, right? That if you are from another country, you should assimilate to the American culture. I think that there's some merit to that. I definitely think that if you become an American citizen, you should salute our flag and believe in those American values that make us unique, right? But on top of that, like you said, there are a lot of people that have a language barrier, that have sort of that regional barrier as well. Communities tend to stick together, and so you do still have pockets of Latino communities here and there. And up until recently, there has been a hesitation to sort of reach out to these communities. A, because I don't think that we've seen them as Republican voters, but B, because I believe that we haven't had the ability to talk to them. We haven't had bilingual speakers in the party. We haven't had sort of targeted messaging. But I think that the advent of this sort of data-driven approach to campaigning has let people tangibly see that there are Hispanics out there that are voting Republican and that lean conservative. And I think that we're starting to sort of take that back, right?
Yeah.
So I'm very optimistic, and that is the project of the RNHA, is reaching out to these voters, and not only that, showing or teaching local GOPs, congressional district GOPs, how to talk to Hispanic voters, to how to hit them on the issues that matter to them. And also, I believe that the defining message is going to be that we are the party that, and goes back to this principle we were talking about earlier, we are the party that is going to deliver results over rhetoric, right? You have a problem with your roads, we'll get them done. I think that Republicans also need to come together on a comprehensive immigration plan that is strong on the southern border, that builds a physical southern border, because look, the crime that is pouring into our borders is affecting our communities. We're the people that get hit with the criminals and the drugs and the crime that comes in through the southern border. We're the people that have to put up with that stuff, and we're sick of it. We're tired of it. So we want public safety. We want a strong southern border, but there also needs to be a way to deliver to people who are deserving of it a pathway to a residency, to a work visa, or even citizenship, whatever that may be. I'm happy to be part of that conversation. Obviously, I don't have I think it should be X, Y, and Z, and that's it. But I think
you don't already have the plan?
Unfortunately, I don't have the plan. Sorry to disappoint tonight.
Well, but I think step one needs to be, essentially, Fox News needs to have a Hispanic channel. It sounds like.
Yeah.
And or it's a Spanish-speaking channel.
Yeah. Absolutely. Actually,
what is the percentage of Spanish speaking in America? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm not so sure about America. I know that according to the last statistic that I saw, Latinos and Hispanic make about 12 to 13% of the population of North Carolina, and a lot of them are.
I want to say that's nationwide.
No,
I want to say Is it
Black
more?
people, yeah, it's way more. Black people are 12%, have stayed 12%.
That's it?
Yes, Black people are just 12% and have stayed 12% for years because of abortion. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, Hispanic is the number one rising.
Yeah, because I know it's rising. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't realize. Yeah.
And one of the things that was particularly eye-opening about this listening tour that we recently did was that a lot of them are still doing those agricultural jobs in the far east of the state. That was incredibly eye-opening to me.
Migrant farmers or migrant workers?
Yes. And so sort of talking to them about agriculture, which is something you don't think Hispanics would care about, but that's something because it's their jobs, it's their livelihood, right? So as y'all know, agriculture continues to be the number one industry in North Carolina for a reason, and this is the reason why, right? And so I think that we've sort of gotten over this sort of hesitation to reach out to the Hispanic community because the old stigma, the old dogma was that, oh, they're all Democrat voters. Well, because nobody's reaching out to them. That's why. But now that they are organically, along with everyone else, starting to vote Republican because they're angry about what they're seeing and what they're hearing, now we have a golden opportunity to reach out to them and make them part of our coalition, right?
What do you think?
And that is the mission of the RNHA.
What are the top 3 to 5 issues that the Hispanic population deals with?
So I'll tell you. This was something that was made by our friends at the National Republican Senatorial Committee. I want to give them credit just in case they yell at me and say I shouldn't have used data. But 1,200 Hispanic likely voters in Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Ohio were surveyed for this. And, they were asked questions on capitalism versus socialism. 67% of Hispanics had a favorable view of capitalism.
Which is because they left socialism to come to a capitalistic country.
Exactly. Yep. Let's see. 64% of Democrat Hispanic voters were said that they agreed. Sorry, I read this wrong. Sorry. 51% of independent voters that are Hispanic agreed that Democrat policies hurt Hispanic families, right? Let's see. And I'm reading this off of what I'm live on air, so I apologize for the hesitation. 60% of Hispanics strongly agree that public schools are failing our kids and they're falling behind the rest of the world. So when you talk about big government spending, education, these are the issues that they care about as well. It's not, and that's another thing that I think that we have sort of failed as Republicans. We think that Hispanics only care about immigration. That's a big part of it, but they have children in the workforce, they have children in the school systems. And look, most Hispanics have no option but to send them to public school, where they're teaching them stuff like critical race theory and all that other stuff, right? And they don't like it. And it's starting to reflect in the voting booth. So again, we have a wonderful opportunity to add them to our coalition, but it's up to us to seize on that opportunity. And this goes back to our conversation of complacency, right? If we're complacent and we think that we've got the votes right now because everyone's angry, and we don't get creative and do the good work that the RNHA is doing with the Hispanics, that the Frederick Douglass Foundation is doing with African Americans, I think that, and I have to give a special shout out to Michael Watley, the NCGOP chair. He really has put an emphasis on young people and minority outreach, because he doesn't see it as a statistic, but he sees it as a worthwhile coalition of people who share our values and share our concerns. So, it's been an honor to work with the RNHA. Again, it hasn't been something that I have focused on a lot in my political career, just because the opportunity hasn't presented itself, right? And I used to tell people, and this may be a little bit counterintuitive or counteractive, but what I appreciated from the Republican Party at the beginning was the fact that I wasn't a statistic. I wasn't a Hispanic male, straight, middle to low. I was an American. They said, son, you're an American. You need to defend the values of this country and defend the values of your state. And that is limited government, the freedom to worship, the freedom of speech. And so, yes, we need to have a targeted approach to Hispanics, but not because they're Hispanics, but because they share our values, right? And share our concerns, and not say, oh, you're my token Latino, or you're my token this. It's, you have genuine concerns that affect all of us as Americans, as North Carolinians. And that is what originally helped me fall in love with conservatism, is that I wasn't special, right? Or it wasn't a something to be praised.
Juan, you're special to me.
This is going to be the intro when people listen to our podcast, this little section right here. This is good. I'm loving this.
So yeah.
No,
So,
I
go ahead,
was going to say really quick, I totally get where you're coming from with that. I really do feel like, especially at the beginning of my run in politics, pro-life movement, I was just seen as just someone who was an American, someone who was pro-life. I do understand why now I am, asked to do certain things that are more identity, but I like what you said, that it's not because you're not trying to convince Black people to be pro-life, you're just trying to show that the values that you grew up with, your culture shows that it actually is pro-life. I love that. That is such a good way to look at it.
Yep. Mal, I have one more question. Do you have anything you want to ask?
I was going to ask the girl question.
Okay, well, I'll ask mine and then you ask yours.
Okay.
All right, Juan. So what advice do you have for a candidate or a local, like a county GOP that wants to reach out to the Hispanic population in their community?
Call the RNHA. Right?
Smart.
No, of course. Look, we are happy to help. We have a fantastic team of people all across the state. I also am more than willing to travel to any corner of the state. People say all the time, you're everywhere, because I feel I this is a mission, right? That we need to not only spread conservatism amongst Hispanics or young people, but conservatism in general. And that means being involved with your community, talking to people, and not only that, that makes you also a better policymaker, right? I hate canvassing, door-to-door canvassing during election season.
It.
I hate it with a passion, but it is incredibly necessary to do. Why? Because you're knocking on the door of real average people that are out of your echo chamber, and you're saying, tell us how we're doing. Tell us how our candidate is doing. Tell us how our party is doing, and tell us where you think our country is going. And that is real experiences and concerns that then I can bring to Raleigh, and I'll remember it. I'll think about it. I'll ponder it and be like, that's who this piece of legislation is helping. That's what this law is calling to address, the concerns of this person down in Whitsett or down in Oak Ridge or down in Charlotte, right? To answer your question, I think that broad approach of values, you don't have to have a Hispanic night or anything like that. Just go talk to them.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think that you have to have like these specifically catered events. We'll do that for you, right? But you will be surprised at the meaningful and valuable conversations you'll have with someone if you just have the courage to knock on their door and talk to them.
And
Beautiful.
I don't know how to ask, I guess just be frank about it. Is the Hispanic population like comfortable talking to Republicans, or do I just say like I'm a community leader? Like, is it okay to go in saying, hi, I'm a Republican, can I talk to you about my values and your values and what we can be doing better? Or is it that, because I know in the African American community, it is kind of challenging going in saying,
you
I'm
probably
a Republican, like you can't do that.
Republican.
Is that the same way with the Hispanic community, in your opinion?
In my experience, right? And look, this is something that is actually currently being studied. And I think that I'll have another packet about that in a few months, right? As to what is the most effective approach, since this is so new, that data isn't available, right? But I think that, look, like when you have somebody knocking on your door, as a kid, I was always told you never open the door, right? When it's a stranger, you never open the door, especially when it's a stranger with a clipboard. They're trying to sell you something. So I think that I'm just here talking to the community, and I think that's just on principle. I don't even think that's a Hispanic thing. I mean, when I door knock, I never tell people, even there's a script. I never go along with this. I'm gonna get in trouble. I never go along with the script. I find
Honestly,
I find a more conversational way. I find a more conversational way to ask the questions like, hey, I'm just in the community volunteering for XYZ candidate. What do you think about this? Do you plan on voting? If I see that they're turned off, like I won't, I won't budge too much, right? But, go out and vote or whatever. But when you're talking about issue-based and stuff like that, I think that, that sort of more amicable approach, community engagement approach is better than I'm a Republican activist and I'm here to tell you how the GOP is going to save America. Going to come off too strong, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
And so that would be my biggest advice there, as well as, be friendly.
Ask more questions than talk.
Yes,
then tell them. Yep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
No one wants to be told how to think.
Exactly.
You need to let them come to the conclusions you want them to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
Well, Juan, we have one question left that we ask all of our guests. And it's a big one. No, I'm just joking. Well, it is pretty big.
What is the meaning of life?
Yeah. In less than 10 words. No, I'm just joking. So the question is, if every single girl in the entire world was looking at you right now and they needed advice from you, what would you tell them? It could be about anything. It could be about politics.
Okay, it can even be about if your little sister comes up to you and goes, I need advice, what would you tell her?
Yeah.
Let's frame it the way that
it doesn't have to be about politics. It can be about anything, whatever.
Anything.
Yeah, no. Whatever you think is important.
I would say that, ladies, get involved in politics. I mean, I think that we, I think it was Margaret Thatcher that said that if you want something to get done in politics, if you want something to be spoken about in politics, you ask a man. If you want something to get done in politics, you ask a woman. You ask a woman, right? Mm-hmm, and so I'm proud to say that when I was the chair of the College Republicans, we had a majority female board, completely on accident. That was not on purpose, but we definitely benefited from their creativity, their drive, their passion, and I think that what we need to see more of is girls and women that dare to dream, that dare to run for office, that dare to achieve those goals in what has traditionally been that sort of smoke-filled room, the good old boys club and stuff like that, right? I think particularly, I've during my time in college, I've studied a lot of Southern politics and Southern cultures in particular. And I think that we would benefit a lot from having a female perspective and females at the table, and I think that as our party continues to grow into this next decade and next couple of decades, women are going to play a critical and vital role, not just in the Republican Party, but just across the board. And so be prepared, be ready, be courageous, and don't let anything stop you or anyone stop you from achieving your dreams and your goals. So.
That's beautiful.
That's great. I will add one more thing.
I'm going to add something too. Go ahead.
Well, I know Juan is taking a woman in politics class right now. And I wanted to know, what's the biggest thing you've learned in that class?
What's the biggest thing I've learned in the class?
What's your biggest takeaway from that class?
I've actually enjoyed my women in politics class this semester, and I know that's shocking to hear, right? But
it is
because I will say, and this may not be the case across the state, but at least at William Peace University, where I go, we have a world-class fantastic political science department that genuinely tries to stay in the middle and tries to hear all perspectives, right? Like we've heard from like, we've studied the works of like Betty Friedan and Sojourner Truth and stuff like that, but we've also analyzed like the writings of Margaret Thatcher and did a writing assignment on Candace Owens. And so one of the things that that really struck me was on the very first day of class, my professor, who's a woman and I respect her so much, she said, ladies, this is not a man-hating class, period. If you think this is a man-hating class, you're in the wrong class. And I saw like the 2 or 3 feminists in the back just deflate a little, right? But but we're going to learn about how women have affected policy and how they will continue to affect politics moving forward. And so we've sort of taken an objective approach to that in the actual, yes, women had to fight for their right to vote and had to fight for their sort of seat at the table and sort of breaking with the traditional role, but what does that also mean, right? Is there a benefit to the politics of housework, to the politics of location? Is it a choice? Would you take your spouse's last name, or do you think it's important for your own opportunity? And sort of, it's not so much it hasn't so much been a women in politics class as well as let's ask the big questions in life and in society. And that sort of well-rounded approach to it, I think, has been incredibly beneficial to everyone, because not only have I seen sort of the shortcomings of what our political system has had for women, but also the awesome opportunity that they have to be able to rise above that and to be able to sort of, again, take control and take the steering wheel. And they're beginning to do that. And that is very optimistic. I see that with a lot of optimism. So that's been my biggest takeaway from the course. It's sort of, I think that as a conservative, you should go to college expecting to have your values and your beliefs challenged. The challenge there, right, is to become a better conservative with better rounded arguments for the debates and for the discussions. And I think that this class has done that a lot for me.
I really want to end on that, but I do want to add this one last thing.
I really wish
I
was in that class.
Yeah, that class sounds fantastic, especially because you're hearing both sides. And I think that's so important. On both sides, they don't do that, if we're just being honest. But I wanted to add too about women in politics. Future female leaders use the code MALPOW to get 10% off. They have a t-shirt that says the future is conservative female. And how I see that, because I know some people find that very controversial, but how I see that is like, even there's those spaces, there's a lot of spaces that are run by liberal women. This is also where conservative women, where like Juan was saying, we can step up, we can be brave, we can be bold, go out there in these spaces that are typically run by liberal women. We don't have to let them win anymore. Like, there are conservative women, and it is our turn. That is our time to come up and step up and be in these positions. Perfect example, and we're going to wrap it up. This podcast, for example, like Vic and Vic, because they blocked me, but Vic found this podcast that's similar to ours, but it has a similar mission, I feel like, and it is run by liberal women. And even some of the podcasts that we've talked about that we're trying to counteract, it's all run by women who lean more to the left. Now is the time for us conservative Christian women to step up and be in these spaces that are normally run by those women.
Absolutely. I think the mission that you guys have, the purpose that you guys serve, is very beneficial, because there's almost nothing like this. You've got, and look, no hate on them, right? Ben Shapiro and all these other fantastic podcasters, but you need a space. There needs to be a space for women in this field, because you guys bring a perspective that sometimes we overlook. Things that you guys think about are things that sometimes we don't think about, right?
Yeah.
And the service that you provide, think about it. Whoever's listening to this and tunes into your podcast weekly, you're potentially inspiring the next Nikki Haley, the next, whoever conservative women leaders who are going to go into the next decade, who are going to go in the next couple of years and be emboldened by what you're doing today. So I encourage you guys to keep doing what you're doing. It's very special what you guys have, and really just the amount. As Vic mentioned, I'm very close friends with both of you, I would say, and I see the amount of work that you guys put into this, the amount of time and creativity and effort, and I just want you to know that it does pay off. Even if you don't see it, I know that there's somebody out there. There's a young girl, a young teenage girl right now that's listening to you and saying, "I want to be like them," and my mission has always been that I want to make sure that if I don't find myself, quite frankly, that inspirational, but if somebody is going to be inspired by what it is that I say or do or how I've lived my life, I want them to go further to reach that next mountain. And I feel like that is what our mission on this earth is, right? So yeah. So keep it up.
Thank you.
We find you so inspiring.
Yeah, seriously. And I know everyone is going to love this episode.
Oh yeah.
And because you do love this episode, make sure you rate, review, subscribe, comment. And Juan, is there any social media you want people to follow you on, or?
I'm literally anywhere. So find me anywhere. Juan PLTZ, either on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I think I still have a MySpace.
That still exists.
Yeah, I think it's a music and dance.
Juan, I thought you were too young for MySpace.
Oh, so I came in okay.
You're
so I'm
a
22.
Child. He's a baby.
I'm 22, right? So I came just at the very end.
I'm
Were
older
you born
than
in
you.
the 90s?
99.
Okay,
so,
wow, you
so the jury's out whether I'm a 90s kid or not. I like to think I am, but the older people.
I will say you are an older soul. Like,
that's true. I forget that you're so young.
Yeah,
most people do.
Thing. Yeah,
most people do. People get shocked when I tell them I'm 22 around here.
But yeah, so everyone follow Juan. I'll link all of his stuff. Also, too, if someone is interested in joining their Hispanic assembly,
the RNHA,
yep. If they're interested, please let Juan know. He would love to get you started. He would love to help you. I'm volunteering him, but that's okay.
Yeah. No. Charles would kill me if I didn't plug in the RNHA. But no, my DMs are open for anyone who wants to have a conversation, and I'm always happy to meet new people. And yeah. I hope this is the last time I'm on. I've actually really enjoyed. This is my first podcast I've ever done. So,
really?
Yeah.
Well, we keep talking about.
Honored.
Yeah, we keep saying you need to do your own podcast.
Oh yeah.
I've been thinking about it. I'm trying to.
Those other boys.
About it.
Those other boys. With Juan and Sebastian.
Yeah, something like that. I think Sebastian and I would get in trouble with our own podcast. So I probably need a more a co-host that'll rein me in. Right.
I don't know who we know that would do that.
Y'all would have like 5-hour episodes. I mean,
absolutely.
Mal
Yeah.
and I go long.
I would say like
y'all would have like 5-hour episodes.
We'd be Joe Rogan on steroids. Absolutely.
I would love to do what Joe Rogan does. Just literally all you do is just talk and chill. That to me, he is living the life.
Living the life. No, I've thought about it. It's in the workshop. It's one of the couple of projects that I have, but I'm just kind of waiting until after finals, final season and graduation, where I have a lot more time to do sort of stuff like this. And so again, I commend you guys.
Yeah, we gotta get you across the stage first.
Yeah, gotta do that. Gotta get that diploma.
Well, all right, you guys. Thank you again, Juan. Like I said earlier, I also think this will be a good episode to share with Liberal Lizzies. We didn't get too well
in the weeds of policy.
Yeah, in the weeds. But yeah. But we did. I think it'll be a good episode to show with your Liberal Lizzie friends, because sorry, I'm like laughing because my brother overheard me say that one time, and he said it sounded like a slur. And I was like, no, it's just our name. Anyways, it just made me think of that. But yeah, like this is a good episode because Juan talked about some things that people might not hear often. And I think that is one of the reasons why the things that we talk about on this podcast are important, because I know both of our goals is to show the Republican Party, show that conservative values are for everyone. And they're not just these mean, evil guys that are on their keyboards that probably live in their basements and.
Wait, I thought those were Democrats.
Let's be honest.
And now you can't send it to your Liberal Lizzie friends.
Anyway, my whole point being that I think this is a good episode because he did touch on some topics that Republicans I don't think talk a lot about, and I think your Liberal Lizzie friends will get something out of this. But yeah,
I hope so.
No, seriously, I think they will. So everybody make sure you share this with them and rate, review, subscribe. Oh, also rate, review, subscribe. Bye.